All right, now this 2026 Investor Circle series just keeps better and better, getting better and better. Here is Mark. Thank you so much for being here, Mark. After those two amazing reverse pitches that you did at the last Web Summit editions, it's wonderful to have you here in the Investor Circle podcast as well. So for those people that weren't at Web Summit and don't know who you are, could you start by just introducing yourself and what you do?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks, Stu, for having me. I'm one of those blunt Dutch guys that ended up in Portugal. We started a business angel fund specifically focusing on the Algarve or the south of Portugal. And we typically invest in pre-seed startups, mainly from FAO University, but also some others from the ecosystem. We do tickets from 75 to 150K. Not really having a theme on where we invest in, but we want our investment portfolio to be impactful for the region. So if you have something on climate or something on new food or medical, we're happy to see you if you are vested in Portugal.
And I know from previous conversations, sustainability is a big pillar for you, and you get involved with that directly with the university as well. Can you share a little bit more about that? Why is that a passion area for you?
Well, we have this partnership with FAO University. They are very famous on marine biology and sustainability. And one of our purposes is to leave the world a little bit better when we leave. And therefore, we have to have the ambition to have others or to help others to be really sustainable in what they do.
All right, thank you for that. So I guess we might as well start with some personal questions. You're a Dutch guy, you're in Portugal. How did that happen? And how good is your Portuguese if you're trying to navigate doing investments in the country?
Yeah, well, I traditionally started up having holidays in the south of the Algarve. I really love the area. With my family, we bought a small property that we rented out for holiday rentals, and then I saw the gap in the Portuguese economy, that there's no really entering international companies in Portugal. So we started a venture called the Circular Hub, where we, based on circularity, encourage international companies to invest in Portugal. And then also the investment fund started. So, and about my Portuguese, I am about to have my 67 lesson in how to speak Portuguese, but it's very challenging because as soon as I hit the marketplace, people immediately start talking English to me. And then, well, my Portuguese is not really relevant any longer.
Okay. Well, I have to say, for me, with legals in Portugal, since Claude and ChatGPT have been around, it's been a lot easier than before that.
Yeah.
Sort of when I first started trying to do documents with banks and stuff in 2016, I was really struggling to navigate some of that stuff and the nuance, and the fact that things like ChatGPT knows Portuguese law and has like the defaults and things. That's been really wonderful to support from my side, because I haven't had the 67 lessons. I've tried really hard, but I have the same thing.
It's a challenge.
The English thing comes through a lot, right? And obviously people hear my accent and they're like straight into English to help me. So maybe we should ask our friends not to let us speak English, and it would.
Exactly.
So tell me more about the fund then. It's a syndicate or it's a fund? How does it work? And how many investments have you guys made already?
Yeah, so we are for now 11 investors, and we brought together 400,000 euros to invest. Up to date, we invested in 3 ventures, and in September we'll be adding number 4 and 5. It all has to do with impact investing in the region. We invested in one company, a healthtech company that has developed a marker for early stage breast cancer. And although healthcare was not in our thesis because it's a very long runway with a very high risk, all the investors said unanimously, we're going to invest in this one. The second investment we did was in a food company. They create granola kind of food and powder from Gran Carab, which is a widely spread fruit in Portugal. And we help them to internationalize. So they are in Portugal and Spain already. And due to our smart money investments, we use also our network and experience to internationalize this venture. And the third one is a company that creates protein from algae, and that's color and tasteless, and also is widely used in food production. So, and the next one we're going to do has all to do with hospitality and sensor data of use of the property. So, yeah, well, it's quite spread.
It is. I mean, it's very hard to even to deeply understand all of those different sectors that you're going into. Is it possible because of the skills of the 11 people, or are you looking at it from a different angle than how it will work?
Yeah, well, as an investor, you tend to look two ways. First of all, you look into systematics. So it's an early stage startup that has particular problems just by getting organized and getting its product towards the marketplace. And the second point of view is always the in-depth experience. So yes, indeed, within our investor group, we cover the in-depth knowledge with the investors. And all of our investors are either they financially driven or supply chain driven or product driven or quality driven or data driven. And then we look into the venture and determine which of our investors would bring the most added value to the company. And he will be our archangel, as we call him. So he monitors the investment and the company, and request for support when needed with the other investors.
Okay, fantastic. And on the mechanics, if it's okay to ask, do you go in as a special purpose vehicle to each company, or is the fund that's collecting all this equity and then we'll do a global return later?
Well, for this particular fund, it is just, let's say, a portfolio in one company. The fund we've created is all what we can call a mother of funds. So we're working on launching a fund for blue economy, and that will be a special purpose vehicle. So that will be a regulated fund, has different metrics than we have for the business angel fund. So it's also depending on the fund thesis, the size of the fund, and the way we manage it.
Okay. Have you got involved with any of the CIFID stuff in Portugal, or have you stayed away from that side of things?
Well, you can't stay away because all the ventures are really looking for private and public funding, and then you can get yourself into the other schemes as well, and that's quite challenging to say. Okay. Portugal is not really mature in evaluating these kind of funding requests. So the three portfolio companies we have, they asked for the same type of funding, and they had to deliver different schemes of information and had to do different schemes of, for example, know your customers. So the anti-money laundering kind of laws that there are. So we try to meander through what is really requested at the specific moment, rather that we can just comply with a scheme that is fixed and organized.
Okay. So all these companies you're investing in, they're based and domiciled in Portugal, and your fund is domiciled in Portugal as well. Okay, I get it. Fantastic. I went to an event in the north a couple of weeks ago, and they had a really amazing panel towards the end of the event, and they were reflecting on the Portuguese ecosystem from an investment perspective. And I took two main points away from the panel, and two main negative points, or positive points, but there were two main negatives. And one was a reflection that the real estate economy in Portugal had been so vibrant and people had thrived so significantly off of it and so persistently off it that it had taken an edge off of any sort of other investments, because real estate just did it for them, and it was predictable and it was high growth. So that was one area. And the other one was that the legal system in Portugal was frowned upon by foreign investors. And so if they were going to put money into a Portuguese company, they would look more to re-domicile the company rather than to put it into the Portuguese side. So that was from the panel. It wasn't my perspectives, but it was the panels, and they were quite senior people from the ecosystem. So I wonder, what do you think about those points that they made? Do you think they're relevant?
Yeah, they are absolutely relevant. But we turned your first negative point into a positive one, because all our investors are internationals. They have real estate, but they also sort of are looking into making impact, and they know they can't make impact on the real estate part. So for their perspective, they put small money, like 200,000 euros, into our fund to do real good things, and not expecting a return on investment like they do on real estate. So that's a different perspective. Indeed, let's say the legal part of investing, financing, you can also see that differently, because there's this golden visa program in Portugal that you can acquire citizenship or residentship as an international, and that will then you are required to invest in the economy of Portugal, and that amount of money we see mainly invested in these kind of ventures. So in that respect, internationals come and they start building their network, using their golden visa program to also ground themselves into society where they are.
Okay. I mean, a lot of people would look around Portugal, particularly if they were coming at tech from outside of the country, and they'd say, okay, I get why Lisbon, and I kind of get a bit about the north, and I know Fidzai came from Coimbra, but you're in the south, right? So Is that because you just love the south, or is it because there's an ecosystem there that you can thrive in, or how does it work?
Well, I love the south to start, and the second part is that we found a non-existent ecosystem, and that challenges me to build one. So we started collaborating with the Far University, which is the leading university in the south, and then we created a ecosystem together with governmental bodies, with private companies, and internationals. And that ecosystem now starts to, let's say, deliver results by either investing or building accelerators like we do, and also by co-utilizing property for student housing or for university purposes. So we are building that ecosystem, which was non-existent, and that's the fun part of it.
It's an opportunity, right? I mean, some people would say it's the reason not to, and you're saying it's the reason to do it in the first place.
And there's a moment in life that you decide that it's not all about making the money any longer. Maybe we have a little bit sufficient, but it's like, so we can also look for the impact. And the people we are collecting, let's call it collecting as a investor group, but also as an ecosystem, we look into the intentions and the ambitions of those people.
I once met a very successful guy from Portugal. He was involved in one of the early IT companies in Portugal. He made a good amount of money, and he said to me, look, I've spent the last 5 years spending money on startups. I've put money in, but I've never got money out, and I don't anticipate any of it ever turning into anything now. I mean, how do you feel about the investments? Can you imagine exits from these, or is the true value to you that they've generated impact along the way and the exit's almost secondary?
Well, let's be honest. If you invest in pre-seed non-revenue companies, the risk of having to write off your money is over 70%. So in that respect, if you get yourself into this business scene, you have to accept that not all of your investments are leading to an exit. So that makes due diligence for us as investors quite relevant, but also tagging along during the process is very relevant. And most of the investors they indeed, as soon as they started, let's say, sending the money, bring it into the fund, they do not expect a exit to happen. And if so, they would be very happy. So we have to build towards 15 portfolio companies to also survive that, let's say, that high risk percentage.
Okay, so you're spreading it across enough that something should land and hopefully return. Okay. Do you believe in the power law? Is that one that you're following, in terms of the percentages of success, or do you just got your own kind of benchmark for this?
Well, I've been active in the Netherlands in business angel investing, and there we took the percentage that was a little bit lower, so that's about 60%, 62%.
Okay.
But and since Portugal is a little bit less developed on this in this particular field, we brought up the threshold over 70%. So we know from experience that this is like what we have to do. And as long as we do, we leave the world a little bit better than we got it. Let's say it like that.
Well, I did mention to you before we started today, you're very welcome to ask me questions in return today. But just before we get to that bit, I was wondering how the Algarve Evolution was doing at the moment, because I know we met originally through those guys. And are you still participating in their events and things?
Absolutely. And actually, we're jointly creating the ecosystem with Fire University and Algarve Evolution. So they grew themselves into a, let's call it the ecosystem of, I think, 300 people over the south of Portugal. And now we are starting to combine all the different communities that they cover into the ecosystem. And so that's good. They are very well supported by Portuguese government, and they're well grounded in Fire University for the research and for the startup scene. So we start to be a powerful kind of an ecosystem. Having that said, we have to create at least 30 to 40 new startups in the region to deliver the promise that we are making.
Okay. I know Miguel made a big statement at the last tech conference, looking for 100, I think it was, over the next few years, and trying to drive that through. So I guess you guys are going to be a big part of that as well.
His accelerator is being a relevant part of the ecosystem, and we are happy to invest in, let's say, what comes from that accelerator. And we have to learn that we all are part of the system rather than being individuals and try to cover our own, let's say, relevant assets.
Absolutely. No, brilliant. So I said I'd take any questions you've got. I'm happy to think on my feet. Is there anything you want to ask me while we're together?
Well, we've met in Lisbon 2 years in a row. You are a very powerful, you represent a very powerful ecosystem in London. And I am wondering how we can tie those two together, because it would be great if we can go cross-national. And London is a very relevant, has a relevant startup scene, and is a very relevant market, party group for Europe. So how can we make the world a little bit better together?
I mean, London is phenomenal, and we've been very lucky to be working with some great partners there over the last 3 years. So it's helped us to develop a lot faster than we would have done individually. So we've worked with 2 universities particularly there. One, a great deal, which is City St George's University of London, and that's basically the University of the City of London, so the financial district. And it was philanthropically put together by the Lord Mayor of London and the City of London a couple hundred years ago. So that's been a great blessing to work with them for 3 years, and that gives us a permanent gateway now back into the UK, and back into London specifically. So they're going to continue to run demo nights. Now we've done 3 years of ecosystem development with them, and they're going to continue to run our format, and we're going to continue to drop in and out of that space with them. So anything that's within your portfolio, within Portugal, or you yourself, if you want to go reverse pitching, there is every month an opportunity to do that in that ecosystem there. The other university we're working with really closely is, and increasingly closely, is Northeastern, which is actually a Boston-based university. They have a startup hub within the City of London as well, and Canopy members have reciprocal rights to go and land in there, and it can be a landing pad. You can co-work from there 9 to 5 every weekday, and some of our startups have already taken up home there. The big thing that they're doing is the Startup Hub is a place where a lot of activities going. There's a 300 million pound quantum fund based out of there as well. There's a lot of stuff going on, but what they really want as a university is they want their students to get experience with startups. So the big gateway opportunity there is that if you want to work with any students from Northeastern campus in London, their big focus, or the big strength, is finance. So anything to do with finance or funds or whatever, there's students there that you can work with from hours to days to months to years. A lot of the work you can engage with at no cost, or you can pay them. What they just want is the experience and the exposure. So there's 2 ways to gateway into London all the time, and we can bridge those, as well as the activities that we'll be doing personally in London. And we have 2 signature editions of our demo night. The London Tech Week is one, and Web Summit Week is the other. So that is always a crescendo week for us, and that's in June every year. So if you as a fund, or you as a portfolio, or you as an ecosystem want to really do something special in London, that would be the week I'd suggest we could collaborate the most.
Can we also do it differently, that we organize a Canopy night at a Vara University, that we invite people over to follow the program that you have developed, or either cross path those from those universities? And there's something else we're developing. We are developing what we call an alumni fund. So we're opening up a fund for alumni from university, and that could be opened up for multiple universities, or maybe a coalition of universities. We have the new approach that from university there's some funding to finance research, additional research and development prior to starting a venture. Then the alumni fund will be the initial investor in creating prototypes and MVP type of products to really prove the viability of your venture. And then our fund would be the third one to follow up with, let's say, the seed investment to really get it grounded. And in that respect, we could see if Canopy and our ecosystem could collaborate and see if we can bring that together. Because we learned that, let's say, the deal flow in Portugal isn't that magnificent as it is in the UK, and maybe we can co-share there a bit, or co-teach each other, or co-cultural kind of develop.
Okay. No, let's have a look at that, and particularly around the sustainability angle. There's a huge part of what we do with City St George's, which has a sustainability side. The other thing that you probably have seen, how we've kind of re-clarified our mission at Canopy, particularly having done the work with City, and now we try and bring forward this message very clearly up front. And it was always in the background, but we never really knew how to say it properly. And we now frame it as leveraging entrepreneurship as a tool for social mobility. So what we're looking at is how we engage with founders who come from backgrounds that are atypical, if you like, and they're coming from different socioeconomic groups, and they're coming from different demographics, and we remove those barriers systematically. In fact, even this podcast is one of removing those barriers, so that it demystifies who investors are, that they are actually people, and that they have processes and ways of thinking. And for first-time founders from backgrounds that haven't got this exposure before, it's incredibly valuable to know. So
I can imagine that these target groups can also have some benefits by either starting investing in Portugal, because there's large European funds that we can, let's say, access to fast track those kind of that way of venturing. I know that we've been discussing of a fund for female investors towards female founders. Apparently, this is coming up soon, and that we can also bring together. So there already you do a atypical kind of investment theme towards a typical venture team.
I think you'd love to talk to Rachel in our team for Canopy Capital, because she's obsessive about this stuff, and we're really determined to make sure our Canopy Capital Fund delivers for female founders as the first demographic that we really champion. This less than 2% of funding stat, which Rachel keeps bringing to the meetings, we just want to turn that on its head. And what I love about the groups that we engage with is that they have a passion for driving their ideas, because this is the first time they're doing it, and they're breaking all their peer group models and stuff as they're doing it. They're just, the ones that we find are so driven. It's a joy to work with. The people that are a bit more discretionary and it's a bit more, I'll see how it goes. I don't have as much time or as much joy with that kind of support. But the ones that really want to do it, that where it's everything and they're both boots into making it happen, those are the ones that I love working with. And it's been great to put the fund together to support them. And I hope we get to do our first check very soon.
Cool. On a more generic kind of topic, I learn in the many discussions we have with startup ventures that they are all very busy creating what they call their TAM, the accessible market, the global market, etc., etc. But what we're looking for is a product that suits a market, but more we look for the team that brings the product and the service. So rather than creating all kinds of global figures and statistics, for startup companies, present yourself as a team filling the need that you are filling, or offering the service that you are offering as a team, rather than offering $1 trillion, million kind of marketplace, of which you might address the 0.002% in the specific marketplace you're working at. So looking at the team for us is mainly more relevant than having thoughts on the global market and a perspective on that one, because many of those startups will start locally and expand over time, and they'll mainly are not really in the directly global kind of working companies.
I think that's a really interesting reflection point, because if we had somebody like Stefan Marege on right now, and he was talking about Indigo Capital, he was talking about Caixa Capital, and he was saying, what's the trajectory I'm looking for? He's very much in that hyper growth, massive outcomes, going global straight away kind of vibe. I think you are a bit more like us, in the sense of we can see massive impact at much smaller numbers for founders and for the communities that we work in. And there will be some outliers in our community at Canopy who hit some of those high growths that people like Stefan will be looking for. Yeah. But the majority,
it's also very much depending on the ticket size you're looking for. And as a startup company, you already are very happy if you can cover development and cost for, let's say, half a year to a year, and that cannot include a global market entry. As soon as you have your company based, invested, and started, and looking for Series A, then you go to a different type of investor, and then those global numbers and scalability and internationalization, etc., will start working. For the really initial phase, it is the team that has to do it, or it's the team that knows where it's lacking resources, so that they can really nominate, okay, we need somebody too. And the investment will be there to cover this part of this our need, and that brings a closer to success than aiming for a global market domination.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I'll reflect back. One of the ways that we measure our social mobility stuff is in how much kind of value do we create in the company compared to the average salary of people in that country already. So as an example, for the Portuguese ones, what we're looking at is the average salary by the statistics of the country is still less than €1,000 a month. Yeah. And so if we support a team of 3 or 4 founders to create their pre-seed and seed valuations, then they're around somewhere in the 3 to 5 million valuation mark by the time we finish that couple of years of work with them. And that is more than a lifetime's earnings for an average Portuguese person. So from a from a social mobility perspective, we feel we've done a massive leap forward. For Stefan or an equivalent VC in that tier, that's not even a starting gun moment, right? but it's an incredible amount of impact that it can have. And we also look at the ripple of that from the founders to their families, to their cousins, to their friends, to the people that they then employ. And there's an incredible amount of impact that we hope to generate from that. But that's important to us. If we don't measure that, if we don't see that, then we're not actually doing the right job by our own manifesto.
Exactly. Earlier today, I had this podcast over AI and investing.
Yeah, with Unigo, right? Yeah.
But there's also some interesting things there, because there will be no startup that won't be using AI in this moment in time. And by using it, the valuation will grow, let's say dramatically. Whereas the tool sets you use right now will be completely outdated within 2 years' time. So we, as an investor, we look into AI as a topic. Let's say apart from a fundraising perspective, we look into, let's say, a database, data, large language model, AI, and service offered and prediction. And those 3 steps, they're quite relevant for us evaluating a startup. Whereas the data set might even be more relevant than the AI offered in the venture. So how to get yourself access to large sets of data to make your AI really working and sustainable? I think there's the biggest question you can ask. We're currently discussing a opportunity with a company that makes sensors for fish farming, so blue economy. So they can detect by warming up the water, they can detect different bacteria growing or algae growing, or the growth of fish staggers for whatever reason, and they need large sets of data models. So if you are a startup company that really is looking into utilizing AI for a bigger cause, find yourself a partner to supply you the data first. Because otherwise it will be, the chicken and egg, as we call it. Then you have AI, but you don't have data. And if you find yourself data, most probably it will be differently designed to really be beneficial for the AI you developed. So this is one of those angles we carefully look at when we value startup companies.
Okay, so it's a powerful combination of the two, but one without the other doesn't achieve what you're looking for? Or is data, of the two, is data more important than the algorithm? Where do you?
We would value access to relevant data higher than having an algorithm that comes to conclusions.
Interesting. Okay. Well, thank you very much for being here today and for sort of sharing all these different perspectives. We've sort of gone on a little journey, and as I promised you, the best way to finish these podcasts is to get your personal perspective, your best advice for a first-time founder who's looking to raise investment, and obviously raise investment for the first time in this world today. So what would you say to somebody if they were sat here right now as a first-time founder?
Well, summarizing actually what I said, first of all, look to yourself and potentially your co-founders or your team to present yourself as the team that's going to fix whatever solution you're proposing. The second part is, if you're planning to use AI, make sure that you have absolute relevant data to support your models, because otherwise it won't work. And if you are a pre-seed kind of funded startup, focus yourself on creating revenue rather than creating global presence or market domination, because that will be different stages of funding, and then there will be different questions asked. We would like to see that you survive the first coming 2 years, and that's rather than that you open up markets like America, China, and Russia. Russia is a wrong example, and the rest of Europe. So those three are quite relevant for us.
Okay, thank you for that. And I wanted to take a moment at the end to just reflect on how grateful we are for your reverse pitches in the last couple of Web Summit edition demo nights. I love the way you stand up there and take every question that there is. And I know you've been doing some Ask Me Anything kind of sessions in the universities as well. And it's that kind of citizenship which is truly valuable. And I really thank you for what you brought to our community and what you bring to so many in the Algarve. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, it's a pleasure to do it. It's fun. And that's what's driving.
But you're very good at it as well. I mean, you actually give really useful sort of insights and information to people. Like if they tape it or they take away the sort of 2 or 3 things that they hear from you and those stuff, it's incredibly valuable when they go back and start working on things.
Well, if the audience is interested in having more information, you can see in the background Sotavento Angels as being one of our labels. Sotavento Invest is our company. Find us on LinkedIn or on the internet, on the website, and I'm happy to guide you if you need guidance or support. So
super kind, and I'll make sure those links go in against your profile on the podcast as well, so people can find them easily.
Cool,
brilliant.
Super cool.
Thank you so much for today, Mark.
Thanks for having me, and look forward to see you at Web Summit next year or this year.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks.
Okay, bye-bye.